peeps, so apologies, not a live video tonight. I had to pop in a little bit earlier and do this pre-recorded video because there's some work getting done in the building and I'm not sure that the noise won't come in while we're sewing. So I'm going to do it now and then share it and you guys can still get it. I'm going to do an overlocker video tonight, how to do something on your Janome overlocker. To be honest, you could do this on all overlockers. I reckon I could do it. So whatever I tell you now, you could do it on any 4-thread overlocker. All right, so I'm using a Janome 644D overlocker today. They've made it for about 100 years. It's a really popular model, nice, easy to use sort of unit. And I'm going to show you how to do a rolled hem. So an overlocker typically does seem like this. You're pretty used to that if you have an overlocker already, and if you don't and you do any sort of dressmaking, get yourself an overlocker. But look, get yourself, like, if you don't get it from me, get yourself an overlocker from someone who sells sewing machines as their primary sort of business, because overlockers need support and lessons, and if you get a cheap and nasty one, it won't work properly. So get yourself a nice overlocker if you love dressmaking. Okay, now rolled hem. What is a rolled hem, I hear you think? If you've ever bought a dress from Miller's, the chances are the hem is rolled along the bottom instead of a turned up hem. It's a great solution for when you don't have a lot of fabric, or if the type of sewing you're doing doesn't lend itself to folding over and doing a tiny little hem. So let's look at a rolled hem on your overlocker. So first things first, a rolled hem requires only 3 threads. You'll need your lower looper, your upper looper, and either your right or left needle. If you want it to be a skinny rolled hem, which is what I'm going to do today, keep your right needle, lose your left needle. Don't lose it, put it somewhere safe. If you want a wider rolled hem for maybe more home decor sort of applications, keep in your left needle and take out your right. So first of all, taking out the needle, it varies a little bit from model to model, but typically you will need a screwdriver or maybe a hexagonal head screwdriver depending on your model. And I'm going to take out my left needle, but I'm not going to unthread it until I take it out. And here's a tip for your overlocker: whenever you change the needles, if you leave them threaded and then you fumble and drop them, the thread will hold them and they won't drop down into bits and pieces. All right, so I'm loosening my screw and taking out that right needle, so you can see it's still attached to the thread, and then I can just snip the thread and it stopped me. See, I can't drop it, it's attached to the thread, so if I fumble it, I don't have to fish it out from down the bottom. Drop it, and I'm going to put that needle somewhere safe because I can still use that. Overlocker needles, typically, if you have one broken needle, replace both of them because you don't want an old one and a young one. But for something like this, I'm just going to take out that needle and set it aside. And I didn't mean to cover that. I was reaching for something. So I have taken out that left needle and I have unthreaded the left needle thread. So there's no thread in the machine. So what we have left over is, we zoom out a little tiny bit. Yeah, that's probably better. We have our right needle, our upper looper, and if you're not real sure what your upper looper is, it is the one on top. See this guy here? This is your upper looper. Up here. So it is the one on the left of these two, and this is our lower looper. Look, and it goes down to this lower looper down here that's hard to see. Now we're going to leave those threaded. Oh, thank goodness I hear you think, because sometimes threading that lower looper can be a bit of a bummer. Not on this machine, it's got a nice easy thread system, but what we want is we want the tensions to change so that the lower looper becomes tighter, and in becoming tighter it pulls the top looper over. So tightening the lower looper means the top looper will roll over, it will take the fabric with it, and we get a rolled hem. So first things first, we need to adjust the tension of our lower looper. So we're going to take it, and I'm just going to guesstimate here, but I think we can take that up to 8 fairly confidently. And then that means now this guy is much tighter than this guy, so it is going to pull the top loop over to the bottom, and we want it to take the fabric with us. But we want the top looper, the upper looper, we want that to have a little bit of guts so that it takes the fabric and doesn't just drag around the fabric. So we're going to change this guy to 2 settings below whatever the lower looper is. So lower is 8, so we're going to turn this guy to 6. And then our needle tension, we're just going to take it up 1 notch. So we started at 3 because that's what this overlocker likes. We've gone lower looper up to 8, upper looper up to 6, and right needle up to 4. Cool? So now what should happen is when we sew, the thread should grab real tight and roll the fabric over. So let's suss it out. A little bit of red fabric. Oh, Let's chop that. Interesting television for a second, but I'll show you I'm chopping. Let's just do a little bit so we don't have to wait too long to find out what's going on. Now, let's go ahead and sew. Whoosh. Oh, my camera just vibrated around. Alrighty, so now if you have a look at this, it's giving it its best effort. See that? It's trying to roll the fabric over, but it's not very effective. So if you have a look, you can see it all looks a bit higgledy-piggledy. What we have forgotten to do is remove the stitch finger from the sewing position. So on all overlockers, I'm going to try and show you this on my little phone. If you have a look where this is pointing here, this little bit of metal that I'm tapping here, if you look in your overlocker and look for this little sort of long triangular shaped bit of metal, that's called your stitch finger, and right now the stitches are wrapped around that. Its job is to support the weight of the stitches and stop the fabric from puckering up. So it's trying to do its best. When we did this rolled hemi bit, it tried to stop the fabric from getting rolled under. As you can see, it gave it a shot. It still did it a little tiny bit, but we want that out of the way so that the fabric will actually do what it's told and roll over. Now, on Janomis, it is almost always this way. You will need to remove this by sliding this little pink dot down. All right, seems easy, but you can't. Now, on most Burnett's and Boninas, you can slide it down. On most Jukies, you can slide it down. Most supermarket sewing machines do have a slide out option where the pin slides out. Janome, you slide it down, but you need to get the knife block out of the way. So, little pink eye here, you'll see it if you've got. If you can't see this, your Janome doesn't do. You need a separate needle plate altogether. So most modern Janomes have this little guy here, and Elna's. Elna's made by Janome, so Elna will have the same. So we're going to step one. We're going to go ahead and put our thumb on this little hook just here. So this is a 644. Models change a little bit, but what we're looking for is this dial. So you might have a brace here. You might have to put your thumb sort of over here. But what we want to do is we want to put our thumb here and push. See, I'm putting pressure on here. Push across, which moves the knife block out of the way over here. So now I can push and click this down. See that? And so now when we go back over here, that little metal piece is out of the way. So like I said, it doesn't really matter what model, but Janome is probably the trickier one in trying to work out how to get that little knob to move. But if you have a close look, it now says R for rolled hem. Let's sew rolled hem now and see how we went. So shut it all up. Oh, I'm going to try to bump the camera. I might go up a little bit because I keep bumping it with my elbow, and my gloves keep snagging on it, so I shouldn't have worn my posh gloves today. All right, so let's give it a shot. Here we go. One layer of fabric for a rolled hem. Anything more than that, it won't work properly. Let's go and feed it through. Oh. I'm going to have to get a camera stabilizer, I think. So now when we look at this guy here, look at that rolled hem. Look how neat and tidy that is. So you can see the top is rolling over because the bottom is pulling it tight, and we've moved that stitch finger and it's let it roll it over. Now it's a little bit open here. Can you see how we can see all those open bits? I'm going to actually change my tension up one notch for the lower looper from 8 up to 9, and this guy here from 6 up to 7, and I'm going to give it another shot. So let's run it through and try again. All right, let's see if we can not have the camera shake away. Let's try it again. I'll go slow. Oh, I'm so unused to sewing slow. Actually, that being said, if you have a Janome overlocker that you think used to sew fast and now it's sewing slow, make sure you haven't accidentally put your sewing machine foot control on instead, because it won't sew as fast. All right, so that's done the job. See, that's rolled that over. That's nice and neat. It's folded, but the stitches are still quite far apart. So the last thing I need to do is change my stitch length. And on your Janome, your stitch length is almost always here. On some models, it's down the bottom, and on some Brothers, it's over on the outside. And on some older models, you have to open up the door and it's on the inside. But what we want to do is we want to make our stitches closer together. So just like if you were doing a satin stitch on your sewing machine, if you want them closer together, you need to reduce your length. Normally it's 3. I'm going down to R for rolled hem, and let's do it again. Slow, see if the camera stays put. There we go. And patient, because it's doing 1 millimeter of stitching per go. Oh, there you go, done. So now you can see that's sewn together nice and tight, and you have this lovely finish on your fabric, and you don't have to roll a hem up. So, well, you don't have to fold a hem up and sew it yourself, because your overlocker has rolled this hem and finished it nice and neat for you. If you did that in the same color, it would just disappear completely. So if you want to just make something, a scarf, if you find some really pretty fabric and you just want to make a scarf out of it, get half a meter and do a rolled hem down each side. The more soft and pliable your fabric, the better result you'll get for a rolled hem, but it's something that I strongly encourage you to do. The last thing that I will say is that there is a bit of a myth that you should put your knife down when you do a rolled hem. Don't do that. You always on an overlocker want to cut just a little bit of fabric off, and that way everything will be in the right spot. So then I'm going to put it back to normal sewing by reversing the whole process. So the last thing I did was change my stitch length. So I'm going to change my stitch length back to 3. My tensions here, I'm going to put my tensions all back to 3. And I promise you, if you do this now, future you will be very grateful that you did. So all that tension's back to 3, which is the right setting for this particular overlocker. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this little guy back into place. So open the door, find out the way that I can push that lever across. Push the lever across and slide that back up, which pushes the little needle stitch finger back into place. And then finish by rethreading my left needle, putting it back in, rethreading it, and then I am back to normal sewing mode. Boom, rolled hem. Now, to finish, if you have a Janome overlocker and not necessarily a 644D, a lot of the posher previous models had this function. If you have this little gligger here, you can leave your tensions on 3 and just slip this across, and that will add the extra tension that I did myself. So by clicking this little clicker across, you now have put extra tension on the lower looper, some more tension on the upper looper, and you don't have to do anything else for a rolled hem. And that's why these Janome 644s are a lot of people's favorite model, because a rolled hem is just a matter of clickety-click and clickety-click. And if you pick this up and accidentally click it, you want to make sure you click it back before you sew your normal sewing. All right, guys, so that's a rolled hem on your Janome, well, any machine. Not just a Janome, but any overlocker. The rules are the same. You want a higher tension on that lower looper, a slightly higher tension than normal on the upper looper, and then one needle, put your stitch finger out of the way, and just go. The worst that'll happen is it won't work the first time. Keep trying. And remember, if you're stuck, just give us a shout. All right, guys, I'm going to go off and do a thing. I hope you're having a nice night. I hope you're staying cool, too. All right, I'm out of here.